Good afternoon or good morning, whatever time zone you're watching from. Welcome and thank you for joining another Employer Spotlight. I'm your host, Farron Crawford, and I work for Peace Corps' Office of Third Goal and Return Volunteer Services. Every now and again, we like to bring you opportunities from hiring federal agencies that are interested in recruiting and hiring you as a RPCV for your unique skill set. And again, we've done just that. We have a great employer here today, and I'm so excited for them to share all about their opportunities at the United States Trustees Program housed in the U.S. Department of Justice. So before we get started and meet our amazing guests, let's go over a couple of housekeeping items. All right, so this is nothing new, but for those of you who are just now joining us and new to Employer Spotlights in the webinar series, let's just go ahead and get a couple of housekeeping items out of the way. First things first, this is a 60-minute live panel discussion webinar. This virtual event again is 60 minutes. So once you have those questions, begin to type and submit them. Our panelists are here to answer any of your questions. To submit those questions, just simply type them into the chat dialog box and we will get to them as soon as we can. All right. So as soon as you get those questions, go ahead and start submitting them. Next item. Couple troubleshooting issues. If at any time during this webinar you have issues with the sound quality or the video, just go ahead and exit out of your browser and just open it up again. Don't worry if you miss anything because this video will be housed on our YouTube's channel online at RPCV Careers. All right, and you can always go back and rewatch this video. Lastly, if you are not aware, USTP was one of our employers at the career fair. So if you weren't able to meet them in person at our DC event last week, now is your chance and your opportunity to ask all the questions and get ready to submit in those applications. All right. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and meet our wonderful panelists and get started with this webinar. Today, joining us again from the United States Trustees Program, I have Karen and Gail.
Great. Well, thanks, Farron. I'm going to start. My name is Gail Geiger. I am currently serving as a special assistant to one of our deputy directors. I often also happen to be an attorney. I've had a variety of positions in the U.S. Trustee Program as an attorney in charge of a small office, as an assistant U.S. trustee, as the United States trustee, and several details in executive office. And so I'm excited to tell you about both what the program can offer our returning volunteers and what you can all bring to us. So before I give a bit more about my background, I want to give a little bit of about the program because I think it gives my history some context. So I'm going to have a couple of slides I wanted to share. The program is a litigating component of the Department of Justice. Its mission is to promote the integrity and efficiency of the federal bankruptcy system for the benefit of all stakeholders. It's creditors, debtors, and the American public. As Congress stated when they formed the U.S. Trustee Program 30 years ago, we just celebrated our 30th anniversary, we are the watchdogs of the American bankruptcy system. Oops, let's see. The program has an executive office in Washington, D.C., led by a director with about 80 employees. We also have 21 regions, each led by an appointed United States trustee, and we have 90 field offices, each led by an assistant U.S. trustee. The field offices vary in size from 5 to 25 people. So as you can see, we offer returning volunteers a lot of different opportunities around the country. This just gives you a map that shows you kind of where it's a little hard to read probably, but we operate in 48 states, commonwealths and territories of the U.S., and we supervise the administration of about 1.7 million cases annually at any one time in the federal bankruptcy system. We have about 1,000 employees, so the program is relatively small and diffused across the country. And yeah, we'll go out of the PowerPoint now. So with that background, I want to give you a little bit more about my history because I do think it illustrates some of the opportunities available. I have tremendously enjoyed my 30 years with the U.S. Trustee Program, and I've been involved in some amazing and disparate duties and tasks. As I was sharing with Farron, I still love coming to work every day, and I think that says a lot about the program. I began my career as an attorney with our Guam office. We do have an office in Agana, Guam, and that's where I started. And I served there for 5 years. And when I was ready to come home, I was able to transfer to our Seattle office as a trial attorney. I served in Seattle for 5 years, and then I was offered a position to lead our Eugene, Oregon office. And I led our Eugene office for 13 years. And during my 13 years as the assistant in charge of Eugene, I got to do some really fun things. I volunteered for several projects. In 2005, the bankruptcy law changed dramatically, and I was on a working group to help figure out what some of those provisions of the statute meant. I was on a working group that also helped train the program nationally. I developed a computer system, or helped to develop a computer system to help our staff implement that new law. And I did training throughout the country on the new law. And these were opportunities I just volunteered for in addition to my normal duties. I also had taught at our residential training facility in Columbia, South Carolina numerous times. And this is not something that just attorneys can do. Paralegals, analysts in our program, I'll talk about that, all can do training in our program if you want to. I served on a working group to revamp how we review internally our own offices. With 90 field offices, we do peer evaluations of our offices. And I served on a working group to help revise how we do our peer evaluation. And then I served on peer evaluation teams. And when the mortgage meltdown happened, the financial crisis came into being, I was asked to coordinate some of our creditor enforcement work. We were doing enforcement work against mortgage servicers who were not servicing loans for borrowers in bankruptcy properly. And I worked on that project that culminated in 10 national settlements that we were involved in, one of which was $25 billion settlement. It's really been an incredible series of opportunities that I think our program can offer returning volunteers. So that kind of gives you a brief overview of what I did. I'm excited to talk about the important work performed by the program and what opportunities we have for you. As I mentioned, I've been there for almost 30 years. Our program is just celebrated its 30th year last year. 10% of our staff have been with our program since the beginning. And I think that says a lot about what the program can offer people. In a time when people jump jobs often, it is pretty impressive to have 10% of our staff still there after 30 years. And I think some of that may be because we do serious work. We're a mission-driven organization, and we're a results-oriented organization. Mm-hmm. And I think it's been particularly fun and rewarding to be in an environment that is so mission-driven and results-oriented. As a neutral party enforcing the bankruptcy law around the country, we take enforcement actions, we do oversight work, and we ensure accountability for those who come into the bankruptcy system. So all of those things mm-hmm. make for, I think, really a fun career in our program.
And I think that really speaks to you all as the RPCB again, being out in the field. You join Peace Corps because you get behind the mission. So as Gail was saying, get behind a mission that you believe in, that you support. And then you said the word fun, right? Something that it really drives you. So just something to think about when you think about your skill and your passion behind getting behind a career, why USTP is a good fit.
Yeah, I think, Karen, that's a really good point. I think one of the things about the U.S. Trustee Program, though we've been around for 30 years, we're innovative. We're not a stagnant organization. We have shifted our mission and our priority. Not our mission has stayed the same, but we've shifted priorities as things have happened in the economy. So what you as a returning volunteer bring, I think, is initiative. You'll bring innovation. I think, obviously, as a Peace Corps volunteer, you've had to be in environments where you've had to innovate. And we are looking for innovators. We're looking for folks who can come in with a fresh set of eyes and identify ways to streamline and do things more efficiently and innovate. And so I think returning volunteers will really bring a lot to our program. Mm-hmm. And I think we can bring a lot to returning volunteers as well.
Oh, great.
I want to talk about the types of positions. So I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint and give you some idea about the kinds of positions that we have available. As I said, we have 21 regional offices and 90 field offices. So throughout the country, we have a lot of opportunity right now in hiring. So in the regional and field offices, we're hiring trial attorneys. So obviously that requires a law degree, but bankruptcy auditors, we're generally have a CPA or accounting degree. They don't necessarily have to have passed the CPA exam, but we're looking for accounting background, finance background, paralegals and legal assistants. And we have a lot of opportunities in this area. So these are the trial attorney openings we have right now. And these are the openings that exist in our field offices right now. And this is just for 2019. We'll be adding positions in 2020 as well.
Really? Okay.
So this just gives you an opportunity of the variety of places that we're looking. And I think, what I think we find the greatest success when we hire from folks in these field offices where you have some kind of support system in that area. So we're looking, if you have connections with some of these cities, it might be a better fit than just thinking, I'm going to move to a brand new city.
Right.
That sometimes can be a little more difficult. Although for returning volunteers, you're used to those kind of changes.
Yeah.
So we also have auditor positions. As I said, these are generally have some kind of finance or accounting degree. We've got 5 current openings just right now. Paralegal openings. I think these are a great opportunity for returning volunteers.
Okay, yeah. Can you explain a little bit more as to why?
Paralegal, generally our paralegals have some type of education, 2-year, and I looked at many of your volunteers have 4-year degrees. And the paralegal positions I think would be kind of entry-level positions, and they generally do trustee oversight. We have duties to supervise our private trustees that we appoint, case oversight, and litigation support.
Oh, wow.
So these are great entry-level positions to see if the Department of Justice, the U.S. Trustee Program, is a good fit for you as a returning volunteer. And I think, as I'll talk a little bit more later, we have had some incredible paralegals and analysts and legal assistants, and here's another position, who really are partners with lawyers and the legal team. So I think they're fun jobs, and you get to do a lot of varied things. I hear people over and over again tell me no day is the same. And because as I mentioned, we have a big mission, we do a lot of different things, and so there's a lot of opportunity to do a lot of different things. If you like every day to be the same, we're not the right place for you.
Okay.
We have a lot of different things we do. Every changing environment, yes.
It's pretty fast-paced, or?
It is. We're, 1.7 million cases in the federal bankruptcy system that we supervise. Now, obviously, we don't touch every single one of those, but we have a big mission in a lot of cases, so it can be fast-paced. But also we have to slow it down when we have to really deliberate and think about things that we do. I wanted to mention our Washington, D.C. headquarters. We do have some openings here, and we will be adding more. But right now, we have a facility specialist. So that's with 90 field offices. You can imagine we have a lot of rental, a lot of rehabbing we're doing.
Okay.
And we have a writer-editor position, which I think would be a really great fit for a returning volunteer. This is someone to help us with our outward-facing work product. Our annual report, help the director write speeches, prepare materials for job fairs. So we have a handout for the Peace Corps job fair.
Okay.
I think this would be a great fit for a returning volunteer. And then we also have a paralegal position in our executive office, in our office of the general counsel. Another great way to get into our program and see if you're a right fit for the Department of Justice and the U.S. Trustee Program.
So there's just so many different opportunities. Like there's the legal side of things, there's the communication side of things, there's building management.
Yes.
So
Yes.
there again, you can just kind of dabble in so many different areas at U.S. TP, which I would have never thought of.
Yeah. Well, our executive office has 80 people, and so we have the procurement. We have all the typical things with running a government agency. And I know there'll be more openings, in the coming months in our headquarters. So really, and we will try to make sure that we get those out to your website so that you're aware of those opportunities. For those who live in the DC area.
Awesome.
I wanted to give us a kind of high level. First, I wanted to give you information about the jobs because I think that's important for you to know what kind of positions are available. And then this slide just gives you an overview of our core duties. So kind of going back to our mission, and I've touched on these a little bit. So we oversee private trustees. So we appoint, supervise, audit private trustees who administer our Chapter 7, 12, and 13 bankruptcy cases. Okay. So these are cases, for example, 7 is a case filed by an individual who's seeking to discharge or have their debt forgiven. The trustee is appointed to supervise that case, and if there are assets to be sold and those monies paid to creditors, that's what the trustee does. And if you look at this slide, the trustees annually distribute about $10 billion in assets every year. The Chapter 7 and 13 trustees, the 13 is a repayment plan by a consumer debtor. So you can imagine the oversight of that kind of administration is very important, and it's really one of our core missions is to appoint and supervise these trustees, and paralegals and auditors and legal assistants and trial attorneys are all involved in that work.
Is this a top level security clearance for volunteers?
Oh, good question. No, we are public trust.
Okay.
Yeah, generates public trust. We also take enforcement actions. So we annually take about 30,000 civil enforcement actions. So some of those are in court, some of those are out of court actions. And these would be to enforce the bankruptcy code and the rules as written to protect the integrity of the system. We're taking actions against, for example, debtors who lie on their bankruptcy documents. We're taking enforcement actions in reorganization cases, big cases like the PG&E case that was just recently filed over the wildfires, or big bankruptcy cases. And then we also take enforcement in smaller cases involving creditor or debtor actions. We also refer about 2,000 cases, criminal matters, to the U.S. attorneys for investigation and prosecution. We have a very good working relationship with our law enforcement partners. We have an appellate unit in our executive office, and we also do appeals in the field. And we approve and monitor credit counseling and debtor education providers. Some of those are requirements to get into bankruptcy or to get out of bankruptcy. So we have a pretty broad set of duties that we do. I'm going to go back just to talk a little bit with just the panel for just one more minute about some of these things we do and how the bankruptcy auditors and paralegals and trial attorneys fit into this, and legal assistants. As I mentioned, we take actions against consumer debtors. We do some consumer protection work, which I think might fit in well with the mission of returning volunteers. One of the things we did when the financial crisis occurred is we went after mortgage servicers who are not servicing home loans for borrowers in bankruptcy properly.
All right.
And in just the last few years, the programs, we had 5 paralegals who received an Attorney General's Award for their work in connection with the mortgage settlement that we did, mortgage servicer settlement. So there are opportunities at every level, at every job classification, to really get involved and do some meaningful work. Recently, the director gave one of our paralegals a director's award for service in connection with a criminal enforcement matter she did. She wrote up and dealt with a criminal referral to the U.S. Attorney's Office and was recognized for that work. So there really are opportunities in the program in all job classifications to really participate. And as I mentioned, you can teach at our training facility. We have a great residential training facility, and paralegals, analysts, attorneys as well, all teach down there. So just incredible opportunities to really get involved in our mission. I wanted to just mention, I think what kind of skills would be a good fit for the U.S. Trustee Program. And one of the things I mentioned is you enjoy a variety of duties. I think if you are someone who likes a dynamic environment and doing a lot of different tasks, you can see our mission is pretty broad. I think that kind of work ethic or work environment is one that's a good fit for our program. If you enjoy policing the integrity of the bankruptcy system, I mean, if you are someone who sees that call to justice, we police the integrity of the bankruptcy system by all players, by all involved. If that kind of fits your core, then you're a good fit for our program. If you're inquisitive, some of my most interesting enforcement matters have often been brought to me by a paralegal or an analyst or auditor who was inquisitive. One of the last cases I tried in Eugene was an auditor who was looking at the debtor's bankruptcy documents and noticed that they had a barbecue that belonged to a GTO club. I guess GTO was a goat, some kind of fancy car. If you're a debtor, you have to disclose if you have property that doesn't belong to you. And the paralegal said, boy, they said they have a barbecue that belongs to this goat, this GTO club, but they don't have a GTO. Why not? Why would you belong to a GTO club and not have a GTO car?
Right.
So we did some work, and lo and behold, the debtors had a GTO, but they hadn't disclosed it. And it was just that inquisitiveness. It was just asking the questions and not just taking things at face value. And so I think, if you have an inquisitive nature, that is also a skill set that's really a good fit for the program. I think those are kind of some of the things I would highlight.
So can you walk us through like a typical day for maybe an auditor?
Okay. Well, the auditor jobs are varied. Because you can saw our mission, we have huge Chapter 11 reorganization cases. We have trustee oversight responsibility. We have civil enforcement work. So an auditor may touch all three of those in a given day. They might have to do an examination of a trustee audit. Sometimes a trustee. Sometimes we go into a trustee's office and look at their operations to make sure that their operations are appropriate. And then they might be looking at financials from a big Chapter 11 debtor who filed a big corporate filing. And at the same time, they might be looking at an enforcement matter involving a debtor and the failure to disclose assets on their bankruptcy documents. So it could be this broad range set of things that an auditor could do in a given day.
So going into these type of positions, you mentioned which ones were kind of entry level. These sound more like you have to have some type of background and experience in it. Is that true? Are they more mid to senior level positions?
Good question, Farron. I mean, I think the legal assistant and paralegal positions definitely are entry level positions.
Okay.
I think we're looking for good writers in the paralegal. We often will be writing correspondence, helping us write documents to be filed in bankruptcy court using some templates. The auditor positions, they are more, you do need an education in finance or a certified public accounting degree. Those are necessary. You need to know how to write and read a financial statement, and you need to know what a balance sheet and income statement is, for example.
Not just your personal ledger.
Yeah, right. That's right. And any kind of fraud skill. Teaching to identify fraud is always helpful because we are looking for red flags of fraud. So it is a variety, and it just depends on someone's background and obviously with a law position. But I know we did talk to some people at the job fair that have law degrees, and we might be a good fit.
Exactly, yeah. And what about the RPCV that is considering going into law school? With that entry level, that paralegal, serve as a good starting place for them too to see,
Yeah, that's a great question, Farron. I think that would be a good fit to do a paralegal position, work hand in hand with a lawyer, and see if that's a good fit. Lawyers do a huge variety of things, both in our program and the outside the private sector. Not every lawyer is going to court trying big cases all the time like you see on TV. I mean, a lot of our lawyers are working behind the scenes outside of court and resolving things or investigating things. There is certainly a civil enforcement. As I said, we take 30,000 civil enforcement actions. Many of those are in court, but they aren't full-blown trials. They might be a motion, which is just a hearing, and you don't call witnesses. It's a whole spectrum. So if you're worried, I don't think I want to be a trial lawyer litigating big trials. Well, that's not what you necessarily would do in our program. Do we do trials? Sure, but not hundreds of them and not all the time. It's a whole spectrum of things. Our attorneys are involved in trustee oversight matters. They're involved in smaller civil enforcement, and they're just involved in oversight. Sometimes we're just overseeing to make sure the parties are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and they are doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Awesome, yeah. So I'm going to open it up for questions. So as you start to have those questions, go ahead and start submitting them to me now. So that way Gail and Karen can go ahead and start answering those questions. But moving along, because I'm curious, I'm just really interested in, the vast opportunities at USTP. Going back to public accounting, for example, you said you didn't necessarily need a CPA. Is there opportunities, or are there opportunities for training? Because it sounds like, again, there's so much knowledge that you have to have in the field. How are you all, helping those RPCVs that are qualified, but need to get to a certain level to be really successful at the job?
Great question. I think we have sort of a two-prong approach to, really three-prong. Number one, we have a residential training facility in Columbia, South Carolina, and we have robust residential training and so we try to get our new employees down to our training facility for a course down there. We have a lot of training that is not residential, but what do you call remote training done by Skype or live meeting, virtual training. Yeah, we do a lot of virtual training.
So the training begins prior to you actually going into the role?
No,
And then-
no,
okay.
no. Yeah, no, once you get on board,
Okay.
then we would take you down to a residential
Okay.
training facility, or we have training that we do remotely,
Okay.
virtual. And then I think every returning volunteer who, if they join the program, would be teamed up with a mentor, and that mentor relationship is, we try to usually have someone outside of your region where you can just ask anything. You know, and it's not your peers in your own region or own office, it's someone else that is sort of a safe person.
Mhm.
Where you
Makes
can
you
ask
feel
any-
comfortable
Yes.
to ask a question.
Right,
Okay.
right. So we have a really, every new employee is assigned a mentor. And
Oh, that's
so,
great.
And the goal of that mentorship is to make you successful. We don't want to bring somebody on and not have them be successful. So really, we do try to establish a work environment that tends towards success. It's a lot of work to bring someone on and to train them, and we
Right.
want them to stay and be successful and enjoy their work.
Right. And you said that you have a high rate of people that actually stay.
Stay,
Yeah.
right?
What was that number again?
It's 10%.
10%.
That have been there for the entire 30 years
Oh, wow.
that we have been around. I mean, obviously we're losing folks as they retire now after
Mhm.
30 years, but no, it was really, when we went to celebrate our 30th anniversary, we really recounted and realized, wow, we have a lot of people who are still here.
Oh, that's great. And I like the idea of that mentoring. That's really
Yes.
important to the RPCV, especially somebody that's coming back and is reintegrating back into their
Yes.
community here in the States.
Yes.
Having somebody there that's that professional development as well.
Yes.
And like you said, makes them feel comfortable,
Yes.
right? So that is another perk and a benefit of working with you all.
Yes.
Yeah. I see the questions coming in. So we're going to take a couple and then just keep submitting them. And we'll just keep going through questions until this webinar ends. And remember, we have about 30 minutes left in this webinar, so get those questions in quickly. Are there any opportunities in IT for DC area?
Oh my gosh, great question. We have a lot of IT needs, and some of those. I think that those positions are probably going to be announced in 2020.
Mhm.
We are just in the middle of a sort of upgrade on our IT systems. We've done a lot of moving to the cloud. We've been very innovative there. And so I think from an IT perspective, we're a fun place to work. We were kind of ahead of the department in moving to the cloud and closing down our server rooms. So look for opportunities. Yes, we will have IT openings for sure in the coming months. No question.
Awesome. So in the interim, say somebody does have that IT background, is there a way that they can just submit their application to you, and like hopefully in the future, if that thing pops up or you find a place for them, you'll
Yes.
contact them? Is that
Yes, I think after this webinar, Farron, we'll give you an email box that's dedicated for the Peace Corps, returning Peace Corps volunteers who want to apply and want to submit resumes. We'll work with you, Farron, to get that email to you. We have an email set up, and I want to work with Karen and our HR folks, and we'll set that up. So we can be receiving resumes as we have positions that come open. Yeah.
Perfect. So I just want to interject here and just remind you all that these positions will also be housed online at RPCV Career Link, where our employers submit our jobs, and you all can go online and find them there. We'll also have the link in the video to this webinar that you're watching now posted online, as well as the documents that Gail kindly presented to us through the PowerPoint. Let's move on to the next question. I see, afternoon all. Thank you so much for holding this talk. You're welcome. I'm a current master's student with a degree in law and diplomacy. Is the paralegal position strictly an undergraduate entry-level position? This question comes from Cameron.
Yes, I don't know about what entry level is. I mean, we certainly would prefer to hire paralegals who are have 4-year degrees or above, who have demonstrated good writing skills. We have some entry level, lower GS level paralegals, but we also can hire paralegals at the higher level. And I wish I knew the GS.
Can we talk about that? Oh yeah, I was going to ask if you knew the GS, because that might give them a better context of entry, mid, and for us when we say entry, we're typically thinking GS 7, 9.
Yes, they can. You want me to?
Yes,
Yes.
please, Karen.
They can advertise as low as a GS5. Normally, the positions are advertised at the 5, 7, 9, 11 level.
Okay.
It doesn't require a positive education requirement. However, as as U.S. trustees mentioned, you want to make sure you have the experience and the skills to meet the minimum qualifications of the position. And in most cases, you should have some experience in, again, extensive writing, having a grad, I think you said you're a grad in law
Yes.
school or master's in law
and
school.
diplomacy.
Right, which is a plus,
Yeah.
because they'll be looking for skills like that. And again, when the vacancy announcement comes out, look in the qualifications section of the vacancy announcement and we'll list minimum, I guess, education requirements as well as specialized experience. And in order to prepare for the position, you can always take any type of paralegal, I want to say certification course, which means, you know, you went through a paralegal training that certified you or pre-certified you. That's a plus as well, because it will equip you for the skills and the qualifications for the position to move to the next level.
Awesome. So let me just reintroduce everyone
Yeah. I'm Karen Humes Dancy from the Department of Justice as well. I work in the Human Resources Office, and my office actually supports the U.S. Trustees Program.
Awesome. Perfect. So again, those questions related to NCE, the hiring, the onboarding, Karen is going to be able to answer those questions. And just adding on to that, I see that Cameron said, in addition, to what degree does internal promotion require a JD?
Oh, let's see. Well, I mean, a JD would not be required for a paralegal.
Right.
Okay.
So,
Go
ahead,
yeah.
Karen.
Normally, it'll qualify you for the GS 11 level. If you have a JD or a PhD, it normally qualifies you for a grade level at around the GS 11 level.
And the promotional potential?
Well, our lawyers generally are required to have 5 years of experience. So
Okay.
it's a hard jump to make paralegal to lawyer, because you're going to be missing that 5 years of law experience. 4 to 5 years is our general requirement. There is one other path into the program that doesn't require that years of experience as a lawyer, and that is if you're hired right out of law school and through the Justice Honors Program. And we do hire through the Justice Honors Program. Those are generally brand new legal grads, but that's the only way to really get into the Department of Justice without having some experience. So that's where you can't start as a paralegal, go to law school, and then immediately just slip into an attorney position with us. You have to have had 5 years of legal experience.
Yes.
Okay.
And pass the bar.
And pass the
It's a
bar.
couple of
Okay.
requirements, yes.
That's right.
That's
A
important
whole
to know.
total different vacancy announcement.
Yeah.
Because you have to pass the bar. They have other requirements that you must meet. And as Gail mentioned, you have to have that experience to move to the attorney level.
All right. I see a question here, and it says, are there paid internships? And I'm guessing that question is coming from somebody that might be going back to school as well, but wants that experience working with you all, but probably can't commit to working full time.
Right. We have not historically had paid interns. We have law student interns who get credit but aren't paid. So we have not generally used the paid intern model at the program. The department might, though. In fact, I think the department
Yes,
does.
we do.
The
We
Department
do.
of Justice.
Yes,
Department of
the
Justice.
department, yes.
And then,
The program is called the Pathways Program. If you go out to USA Jobs, and I'm sure you're familiar with the government-wide, I guess, vacancy announcement portal, and you search on Pathways programs, and you'll see the available internships that are available throughout the Washington, D.C. area.
Okay, perfect. These are great questions. Keep submitting your questions. I see a question here from Cynthia Gutierrez. Have any of your paralegals gone to law school, pursued some sort of graduate degree on the weekend at night while working full-time at USTP?
I believe so. I mean, I know I've had paralegals who have gotten their CPA or their accounting degree and then applied for our analyst positions or auditor positions. That is clearly, I know that folks have done that and been hired. So that is actually a great path forward, I think, and a path to advancement. Either start as a legal assistant or a paralegal at night or on the weekends or online, get your CPA exam or your CPA credits and then apply for auditor positions. That's a great path, actually.
Yes, it is.
Let's see. This is a great question. What sort of professional development does USTP employees receive? And you hinted at that earlier. You talked about how there's a training and there's that mentoring. So if you're just now joining us, they have that mentor program as well, where they partner you with someone that's seasoned. And
Yes.
then, yeah.
And I think, as I said, we have a residential training facility, and those often can be multi-day courses down at our Columbia, South Carolina training facility. We have other kinds of training, virtual trainings that we do. And then we're very supportive of staff identifying training opportunities outside the program that will supplement their skills and coincide with their duties. And the program was willingly pays for those types of outside trainings. We do it routinely for lawyers, but we also look for, if you wish you knew more about Quattro Pro spreadsheets, or it's Excel now, Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah.
And you want to go have a half an afternoon where you learn about Excel. The program will be very supportive of sending someone to that kind of course.
Awesome. So I just want to reiterate, it's paid professional development. So they're paying for you to get further enhance your skills and hone in on your craft. A question that I actually had, since we're talking about professional development, is that in one of your slides you said that generally you have to be a CPA. So what if they have that accounting and finance background? They're not a CPA. Do you all help in providing them to get their licensing to become that certified public accountant?
Yeah, that's a good question, Farron. And I don't know that we have done that. I think you'd have to do that on your own in the evenings. And then, I don't think we would. I know we wouldn't pay, and I'm not sure we would grant leave.
Okay.
I mean, you could use your own leave. The federal government has a very robust leave program, but that would have to be looked at on a case-by-case basis.
It's like a professional certification program, but it's handled agency by agency.
Okay.
So some offices may offer to pay for your certification.
Oh, okay.
And some may not.
Okay.
Yeah. As a Department of Justice, we used to have a paralegal program that paid for your certification.
Nice.
But it depends on the office and funding, whether or not they have money available.
Okay. All right.
But that does dovetail with something else I wanted to mention, and this is probably true of many federal employers. We are, I think, a great place to work for the flexibilities we offer. We, at the U.S. Trustee Program, offer a telework option, not full-time telework, but you can telework some days of the week. We offer alternate work schedules, so if you want to work multiple nines and then have a day off in a paid period, we offer that, which I think is incredibly, can be a lifestyle assistance, especially if you've got a young family. And then I think we're in line with the government in terms of leave policies. We have robust annual leave and sick leave programs, and the use of sick leave to care for a sick child or a parent. So those I think all help someone coming back into the workforce, integrate back into what might seem like a little bit overwhelming schedule, 40-hour work week. There are some flexibilities there, I guess.
Okay.
We don't tend to have part-time people, but we do offer the other flexibilities.
All right. Perfect. Let's see, I see a question that says, I don't have NCE and I'm finding it difficult to get into federal government through the competitive process. Can you share ways in which I can make myself more competitive for hiring in this program and get to the interview stage?
Oh, okay. Well, I think for any interview, I'm always impressed because you're trying to get to the interview, but if you make it to the interview, I'm always impressed with interviewers who have looked at our website and maybe looked at the director's last speech or looked at some of our handback books. I'm always wowed. I mean, I have so many. I do a lot of interviews, and I've seen a lot of folks who never even bothered to look at our website. And then I've seen the other end of the spectrum where they actually read the director's last speech that was posted on our website, and they knew what he said. I think the more you know about the program, the more research you do, because there's a lot of information available online, the more you can tailor your cover letter to explain why your values and your personal mission coincide with the mission of the program. And I think if you can highlight those kinds of things, it'll make your resume stand out. We are looking now for cover letters where you explain why you're qualified or why you want to work for us, along with a resume. And I think that cover letter, and it also, cover letter is a great opportunity to show your writing skills.
Mm-hmm.
And so spend some time on that cover letter. Do not have a typo in your cover letter. Have a friend read it. You know, the worst thing you can do is your cover letter where you're trying to showcase yourself and it has errors and typos.
Right.
Make sure that cover letter is polished, and throw in some things that you see online about our program that are genuine.
Experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, include your, if the qualifications crosses over your volunteer experience, please make sure you include that, because volunteer service is credible service.
Right. And some of the, I mean, as I've said, we're looking for innovators and folks who have new ideas, and so highlight some of the things you did as a Peace Corps volunteer that required that you innovate, and because that is something, I think that's really something we value greatly. We are not stagnant. We are not a place that gets complacent and wants to stay the same. That is not who we are. We really are, have a core mission that we stick to, but we are constantly looking at, how does the real world, how do we need to adjust what we're doing to ensure that we're staying relevant, that we're adding value, and so that means we don't stay complacent. So I think your volunteers in particular will really add a lot to our program.
Great. And we have a lot of tips and resources available to you all for resume writing, your cover letters. Just go to our webpage, RPCV Careers. You should be able to find all of those resources that are available to you if you need that additional help. And as Gail was saying, definitely have somebody review your work, right? Because this is the first experience, the first face that you're showing before they even get to meet you. And you definitely want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward. I have a question, just want to add on to what you were saying. So before, and I know you have a slide on it, so we'll get to it a little bit later. But if they don't have NCE, can they still apply through that inbox?
Yes, and let's just go to the slides. I didn't give you Farron our inbox yet, but I'll give that to you after the fact, and hopefully we can share it.
And it will be available online.
Oh, great. We'll be setting that up for those who have the non-competitive. But if you don't have the competitive, I think you still you'll still be sending applications to an email address available on USA Jobs. But in your cover letter, I mean, we really are excited about hiring returning volunteers. So highlight your experience as a returning volunteer in your cover letter. We'll be looking for it. I think that you offer, I mean, I hear in interviews all the time, why do you want to come to work for the U.S. Trustee Program? Well, I'm interested in service. Well, it's one thing to say you're interested in service. Mm-hmm. Your returning volunteers have already shown their dedication to public service.
Definitely.
And working for the department, I mean, I firmly believe this, and I've been doing this for almost 30 years myself. We are committed to serving the public interest, and I feel like I could have gone into private practice, and I didn't for a reason. I believe in the mission of the department. I believe in the mission of the program, and it is about public service. And your returning volunteers have dedicated a huge chunk of their young lives, often, or their lives to public service. And so you've lived it. And I think that you should highlight that in your resume, no question.
Awesome.
And then for those who do have the NCE status, just throw that into your application. And we'll be looking for that as well. And as I mentioned to Farron, we may have a special email address for you as well, so you can bypass the USA Jobs email address and go right to a separate email address, and we'll get that for you. And we'll just be looking for that NCE status. If you've got that piece of paper, that will help.
Yes.
All right. And to request that piece of paper, again, you can request that through our office by going to emailing certify@peacecorps.gov. You just request your verification of service or your non-competitive eligibility. Also, your description of service that you should have received, and if you are currently serving, that you will receive after the completion of a successful service, will also have that language on there that indicates that you were granted non-competitive eligibility. So you definitely want to make sure that you have that document and you can submit that to them as well. So we have a couple more minutes left, and I see more questions coming in. So I want to make sure that we try to get to as many questions as possible. So let's address another question here, and it says, what sort of, no, I'm a CPA. What is the grade level for the bankruptcy auditor position?
Oh, great. You know, they go up to, well,
They can go all the way up to a GS-12. So it depends on which level the office wants to recruit at. So they can recruit as low as a GS-5 and as high as a GS-12 or 13.
yeah, I think the auditors, we start higher than a 5. I'm not.
It depends on each office.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can, U.S Trustees Program can recruit as low as a GS-5, but Gail is saying that they recruit much higher, likely at the GS-9 and 11 level.
And we have several auditors who are make it to GS-14 and even some 15s.
Okay.
Which is fairly unique in the government to have CPAs get to the GS-15 position.
Yes.
We have some supervisory auditors who supervise a group of auditors throughout the region, and they can make it up to the 15. And we also have several, many GS-14s that have gained experience and been advanced to that level. So that's unique amongst agencies, I think, to have that kind of level of, they're fun jobs. I think they are.
Yeah. And keep in mind, the higher the grade, the more experience we're going to be looking for. So even though you have a CPA, we look for specialized experience as well. So the higher the grade, the more experience. The more entry level, we don't focus too much on the specialized experience as much as we do for the higher grade levels.
Okay. And I imagine if you're applying through NCE or just any type of non-competitive or competitive process, you are probably going to want to have your licensing document as well, right? Something that says that you're certified in this as well. So that needs to probably be part of your application packet.
Yeah, I think, or we can get that later. I mean, I don't think it's.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're correct. We're looking at each other.
I don't want to make it. I don't want to make it
Sure.
difficult to penalize to your involved.
You don't make it mandatory that you send a copy of your CPA license.
Okay.
It's not mandatory. What is mandatory is the education document, a transcript showing you have, I believe, at least 15 hours in accounting, finance, or related field. That is the minimum education requirement.
Okay. I see a lot of great qualifications. I have another question here about, I have a paralegal certificate and associate degree in paralegal studies and a BA. What grade do I qualify for?
I don't think we can answer those kind of questions.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult without having your resume because you qualify with the BA alone for the GS-5 level. But if you have experience along with your BA, you could qualify for the 7 or the 9.
And even sometimes we've hired at the 11 level.
Right, or at the 11. It depends on your experience.
Yeah, it really does.
Okay. And you have a website, USA Jobs, where they can go online and see some of these positions, correct?
Yes.
All right. So I definitely encourage you all. Again, they'll also be on our website at RPCV Career Link, where you can view those positions. But until then, go to USA Jobs. Do a search bar for the DOJ, United States Trustees Program, and see what positions are available and see what the different grade levels are. And then just really start to tailor your resume and your the experience that you've gained from Peace Corps and throughout life to what specific requirements are for those positions and the grade level that you're trying to apply to.
Yes. And what I wanted to mention, Farron, all those field office positions are just about to go. We haven't hit.
Okay.
Haven't hit post quite yet. So
be on the lookout.
So be on the lookout. Yeah, I don't want you to go thinking, well, where are all these trial attorney and paralegal positions and auditor positions? We're just about to hit. So the timing was perfect.
Oh, this is great.
Because we're really looking to hire quite a few people in fiscal year 19 and then we have a whole nother group in fiscal year 20 that will be opening up as well.
Oh, that's nice. So it's like you hear it first.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
I see a question here. Do these positions have travel?
Some do. I mean, obviously, our residential training program down in Columbia, South Carolina, that is can be a bit of a long trip from the West Coast, but that is where our training facility is located. Training within the region, normally, that will be the bulk of travel, like if you have a regional. Sometimes, like I used to be the U.S. Trustee for Region 18, which is the whole Northwest, and I'd bring all the paralegals and legal assistants together once a year, once every other year for a big conference with just the paralegal and legal assistants to talk about, what can we do better? What are we doing? What are we seeing? And so definitely within the region, and some regions are bigger than others. Maybe some regions might have, or some offices might cover another office, and there'll be some travel. So not huge amounts of travel. It usually would be within the region. But as I said, my region was big. I had Alaska all the way over to Montana, Washington, and Oregon. So when I brought those folks together, it was some big travel for some people.
I feel like volunteers can relate to what you're talking about because you're talking about the region and then bringing everybody together. So just to make that connection for you all, it's almost like your reconnect, your mid-service, your end of service, where they bring everybody together for the conference. That's a time to go over, the existing skills, what you're working on in the field, how you can improve and do better. So just to kind of make that correlation, it's already what you're doing.
Yeah, right.
Let's see, I have a couple more questions. And again, this webinar is going to come to a close here shortly. So I just want to make sure I get the last couple of questions. So if you have questions, go ahead and submit them to us now. And I see a question that says, I'm a finance major. Do I need an accounting degree for the bankruptcy auditor position? And I think Gail talked about that earlier. Finance or accounting, right? Either or.
Well, it's the education requirement. And again, I believe for the auditor position, if I'm not mistaken, it's about 15 semester hours in accounting. And that's the minimum requirement as far as education is concerned.
Okay. Yeah, so you could be a major in finance, but
your course study must include at least 15 hours in accounting.
Okay.
So you know how to read a balance sheet and income statement.
Yes.
You know what a debit and a credit is.
Yes.
Some of those kind of basic financing.
Yes.
Because you do, as our auditors, they do read a lot of financial statements and review a lot of financial information.
Okay. I see a question here, and it says, sorry, I just lost it. Okay. How does the paralegal and legal assistance positions vary?
Oh, that's a great question. I think the legal assistants really are the very entry-level positions. We tend to hire more paralegals because I think they're more powerful. They can do more things.
Really?
But the
research.
Research, they can look at trustees' reports. Where legal assistant are really the very, very entry-level positions doing, minimal support, writing and support functions.
And paralegals doesn't require you to have a JD.
Correct.
Okay.
No, you have a paralegal certificate or a 4-year degree.
Okay.
Not a JD.
Okay.
Yeah, paralegal is and they're more in a support function, supporting our litigation work and our trustee oversight.
Do they work with the trial attorneys or?
Yes, often,
Okay.
right.
Okay.
But they also have some independent work they do. As I mentioned, we supervise about 1,300 private trustees. Paralegals have a big role to play in that supervision. When a trustee administers a case and sells the debtor's assets and pays creditors' claims, we look at that report, and we have our paralegals doing that. They look at the report of the trustee's administration. Did they sell the right assets? Did they pay the right claims? And that's work that paralegals do. We don't have our legal assistants doing that kind of work.
Okay.
Legal assistants are more basic correspondence.
Preparing briefs, papers, documents.
Yeah.
Okay.
More like the support team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes
And
sense.
paralegals work more independently.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Always under the supervision of, but much more independent work.
Okay. Do they have any supervisory skills, like the paralegals? Are they overseeing the
Paralegal pool, like a pool of paralegals.
Mhm.
We don't tend to have that model. I didn't mention this. Our field offices, 90 offices, they can range in size from 25 in a big urban area like LA or Manhattan, Chicago, but they can also be as small as 5 or 8 people.
Oh, okay.
And so we really don't have this pool of people. You could be the only paralegal in the office so often.
Wow.
And we have, our director is very innovative. He has a 3-pronged management style to address ensuring that our mission critical work is done. And one of his visions that have been very effective is he's consolidated functions in the region to make sure we get our mission critical work done, like supervising these 1,300 private trustees. We have consolidated a lot of functions at the regional level. It used to be done at the field office level. And so a lot of our paralegals are working on consolidated tasks. They work on tasks for all the offices. So for example, in my region in 18, we consolidated functions in the Seattle office. And so I have paralegals that might be housed in Boise, but we're working on matters for Portland, Seattle, Anchorage. They were consolidated, doing work around the region. And a lot of our paralegals work on consolidated functions at the regional level, as opposed, they're sitting in an office, but they're working for the region. And it's, I think, been a very effective, innovative management initiative that our director brought. And I think that those who are working on consolidated functions actually really like it. They develop a level of expertise that's wonderful. They really are the pros at what they do now. And I think it's really been very effective in making sure that we get our basic mission done. And that's, I think, fun for the paralegals and analysts and the auditors.
Perfect. So we're getting ready to wrap up. And before we close, I just wanted to ask our guests here, any final thoughts, takeaways, anything you want to give to our PCVs that are interested in applying to these positions, just anything you want to close out on to make, again, explain to them why we want them and why, they would be successful at these positions.
Great. Well, I'd love to. As I said, I've been at this almost 30 years, and we're constantly looking for new innovations, smarter ways to do things. We are never trying to do more with less. I don't think that's even possible. Instead, we're trying to work smarter and streamline and bring efficiencies. And I think the returning volunteers, as I reflected on what you have done as Peace Corps, working for the Peace Corps, I think your fit is really good with the Department of Justice. We have serious work. We're a serious agency and with a big mission. But I think we are a great place to start a career at the Department of Justice, especially for the paralegal, legal assistants, and auditor positions. If you don't have a law degree or a CPA, we have a lot of great opportunities, and it's a place where you can make a huge difference. When you're talking about 90 field offices, 1,000 people, obviously we're diffused around the country, and you can make with that small an agency and that big a mission, you can really make a difference. And so if you're someone who wants to make a difference, and you want to innovate, and you're mission driven, we're the perfect place for you.
Perfect.
And my advice is that as you occur additional skills and qualifications, just jot them down, because a lot of times when it comes to the application process, you're sitting there and you can't think of all that you've done, whether it was through work experience or volunteer. So just get a personal journal, and every step, every move that you make, and you feel like you learned something, jot it down and keep it in your journal. When you go to apply for the position, you're going to go through your journal and look at all the experience and qualifications that you got.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, that's great advice, especially to currently serving Peace Corps volunteers where you have a couple months left in your service. Again, just recap all the things that you've done during your Peace Corps experience. Again, recently returned Peace Corps volunteers. Again, anything that you've done can be incredibly helpful towards the positions that you might want to consider at the Department of Justice United States Trustees Program. And on that note, before we close, I just want you all to remember that this video will be posted online at our YouTube channel, RPCB Careers. Again, check out RPCB Career Link for those career opportunities, and stay tuned and watch out for the positions that our lovely panelists mentioned here in this webinar, because they will be coming out soon. So until then, get those resumes ready, get that cover letter ready, and get ready to apply. Thank you all for joining us again, and special thanks to our guests. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, this is really great. And I actually look forward to hearing from you all and all the amazing applicants that you receive from just this webinar and from our career fair. So thank you again.
Thanks, Farron.
Until next time.